Hello, everyone. Welcome to your December bhavana. I am Shay with Curate Soul. It's wonderful to have you here. I hope everyone is doing well. So this month, the animal that we are working with that has inspired our bhavana or monthly theme is the buffalo. And for those of you that may be new to joining, this year what I've done each month is selected a card from Kim Kranz's Oracle deck, the Wild Unknown Spirit Animal Oracle, to kind of guide inspiration as I weave Ayurvedic and yogic philosophy into my offerings. And this has been a beautiful way to kind of create these themes and create structure and give kind of that structure to my classes, but also in my own studies as well. And so we're wrapping up the year. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to have those of you join me virtually here through the newsletters, to those also that are in Savannah with me to join in public classes to dive a little bit deeper into some of these themes that we're working with. And so for December, as we are wrapping up the year, our last animal is the buffalo. And so I have the card. Oh, and I have this one mirrored, so sorry about the backwards. So beautiful card here. The qualities or characteristics of the buffalo is this idea of grounded yet heavenly, practical yet spiritual. The energetics of the buffalo see challenge and hardship, bumps in the road as an opportunity for upliftment. For those of you that joined me last month when we were exploring the qualities and characteristics, the energetics of the vulture, I mentioned towards the tail end of our chat, tantra, the Sanskrit word that means to weave or to expand. And so the buffalo actually is a beautiful kind of follow-up to the vulture, similar messages, actually a diving deeper into those energetics of the vulture and exploring that a little more, especially from the tantric point of view, this idea of weaving together to expand our viewpoint, to understand that everything that we go through and experience in life is fodder for our spiritual growth. It is something that can be used to learn more about ourselves, to understand where we can shift, or to learn more about the patterns that we have. And so again, the buffalo sees challenge, hardship, bumps in the road as an opportunity for uplift. It's not this idea of either or. It's not that we feel happy or we feel sad. There is acknowledgement in that we can hold this feeling of happiness as well as this feeling of sadness at the same time. So allowing that both and to exist in our life instead of having this dualistic either or. So this black and white, this good or bad, this right or wrong, this easy, the hard, joy, sorrow. And so knowing that we can hold what seem like pairs of opposites. However, as humans, what our mind and nervous system need to do is actually create these opposites to create understanding. When in reality, these opposites are just labels that we place on something so that we can understand it. Instead of this dualistic nature that we think things have, again, it's just a way that the mind works to create a relationship with the world around us. And so when we can step back and realize, oh, this is my mind putting this particular label on something, and it's not necessarily that particular thing, or it can be multiple things all at once. So bringing that grounded and practical aspect to it while also remembering this kind of heavenly or spiritual aspect as well, this interweaving. The other thing that this kind of sparked in me as I was exploring the ideas and the qualities of the buffalo is our spiritual practice or our inspirational practice. How the majority of us in the world are what I would call householders, a word that I've kind of adopted from my teacher, Tracy Stanley. And this idea that remembering that we are not monks that can sit on a mountaintop all day meditating. We are part of this world in that we have multiple responsibilities, we have families that we take care of, most likely jobs that we are working. And so we can't dedicate 24 hours of our day to a spiritual practice. However, Tantra, this weaving and this quality of the buffalo, grounded yet heavenly, practical yet spiritual, is a remembrance to, an encouragement to remember that we can interweave our spiritual life into our householder life, and we can weave our householder life into our spiritual life. It does not have to be separate. We do not have to have an either or. We can have that both and so finding ways that we can bring those qualities of our spiritual practice into our daily life. For some of us, that may be setting up little altars around the house, especially if, for instance, you love to cook and you spend a lot of time in your kitchen. Is there a little space where you can create an altar that recalls that remembrance of cooking being a spiritual practice for yourself, in that you are nourishing your body, your mind, but also giving to others and nourishing others. Maybe you have an altar in a space that you have your daily practice space in. So whether that is meditation, whether it's yoga, whether it's some sort of other sort of movement practice or inspirational practice. You're an artist and you have kind of an art studio. Can you set up a little altar there that reminds you of these qualities of inspiration, those deeper aspects that touch this inner place within and bring joy and bring inspiration and creativity and just a brightness. So I encourage you to kind of consider that. How can you begin to weave the spiritual with the householder with the spiritual? So each waking moment and even sleep is a moment of almost ritual, of almost honoring, remaining grounded yet heavenly, practical yet spiritual. So the element of the buffalo is the earth element, a creature of the earth. This reminds us that we come from the earth and that we returned to the earth. So even again, as we're pursuing our spiritual life, we do not have to be monks. We have these householder responsibilities. We're not required to live the life of renunciation. We are meant to experience joy, to have things that make us happy, things that we desire, a means to support ourselves. We don't have to renounce all of that to still have a spiritual life, especially as a householder. We need these things to survive. It's the means to sustain us in this world. It's also a reminder that earth was that first thing that supported us from a physical standpoint, is this solid aspect. It's solid, hard. It supports our body weight. It will hold us, but also it's what supports us. It's where our food comes from. It's where we receive sunlight, moonlight, water, the air that we breathe. All of this is nourishment and support. So it's the first form of support. And we can return to her support anytime that we feel that we need that little extra amount of support. If we're feeling overwhelmed, we can take a moment to walk outside and stick our feet in the grass or the sand. I don't know about you, but there have been many moments that I have just let the earth hold me as I've cried, and just let her take that experience, that energy, that emotion. Sometimes just to feel that support in those overwhelming moments of life, and just for her to receive my tears has felt incredibly supportive. You can also just, get close to the earth if you ever need to feel that support from her. Something like a child's pose. You can just sit down cross-legged on the earth, maybe leaning your back against a tree or the wall to feel support along the length of the spine. Again, just coming back to those aspects that feel like allow you to feel like you're being held, supported. So diving maybe into exploring that a little this month as well. Also, the message or the qualities of the buffalo is that it does not fear death, illness, or misfortune. And it's abundant, reminding us that the universe will provide. For instance, many indigenous cultures here used the buffalo in many different ways, provided meat, hide, bones, again, support from the earth in various ways to make sure that we as humans were able to live, to thrive, to evolve. So a reminder to trust that there is always plenty to go around and to offer gratitude. Gratitude is a really powerful emotion and feeling. So, gratitude again for the means, for support, for those around us, for things that feel challenging, but also the things that feel easy, for the things that we label maybe sorrowful, but also that we label joyful, and knowing that we need both of those. So, when we speak of this idea of not fearing death, this is because the buffalo remembers that death is just another form of transformation. It is not the end. It is just a doorway into something else. So, as that buffalo was used for the support and nourishment of the indigenous cultures, even though it's no longer in this animal form, it has then been transformed into meat to sustain, tools to build, to support, hide to keep you warm, and many, many other things. And so remembering that those moments that we experience in our life, and there's many, many little deaths that we experience, but then also some larger deaths. And it's usually those larger deaths that really have a huge impact on our psyche and the transitions in our life. We really begin to notice that transformation and transition in life if there is the death of a loved one or death of someone that we've known for quite a while, a close relationship to us. But there's many deaths that we take each day, each exhale, each time we fall asleep, each time the sun sets. So we've got all sorts of little deaths. And can we begin to maybe recognize some of these smaller deaths, these smaller transitions, and develop a relationship with them so that as we have these larger transformations in life, we can recognize that it's just a doorway, that it is just a transformation. It's not an ending or necessarily the completion, a disappearance in any way. It's just, again, that transformation. So maybe helping us ease through those transformations a little bit more as we practice kind of these smaller aspects of death and transformation. Again, so all of this that we experience, all of these transformations, all of these deaths, all of these transitions, this is fodder for our spiritual life, reminding us that each moment we can connect deeper with our true nature, that divine aspect of the self, and weave the both and instead of trying to keep things either or, black and white, good or bad, bringing that together to create this understanding within. Even in those moments that we can't understand why, if we can begin to kind of hold that energy of both and just explore that, sometimes the why will come. And if the why doesn't come, sometimes what happens is, again, this expansion, this unclenching, this nodding, or surrendering to just what is. When we talked about Saucha last month, that purity of just being in the moment without the need to change it, to control it, just being with what is. So another reminder there. So for instance, if we're bringing this idea of transformation into our movement practice, our yoga asana practice, we may find ourselves stopping altogether for a while, just totally walking away, not practicing for a little bit, and then maybe coming back to the practice. We may find that our practice frequency will change, or the style that feels most supportive to us will shift. So maybe we're doing hot power at some point. Maybe we begin to move more towards a yin or a restorative style, and just honoring that change is okay. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. It's just that transition that we need, and that we can use to explore more parts of ourselves. We may experience illness that requires us to pivot, to change. The past several years have been a beautiful example of that, dealing with the collective grief of the pandemic. How has that created a shift or a need for transformation in your life? Maybe you experience long COVID. Maybe you know somebody that is experiencing long COVID. How has it required you or them to shift? Again, just bringing in that transformation, that idea of things are not the way they used to be. Our health may be very different. And so, what is that shift asking of us? How can we stay practical and grounded, but also remember that we need both? Lastly, things like misfortune. Maybe we lose a job or an opportunity we thought that would bring us joy. Again, that transformation, the both and. How can we hold that? We're certainly allowed that desire, that pleasure, but we're not in control of the results. So when the results don't meet our hopes and expectations, we can use that. Often what we experience is disappointment. What we can do is use that feeling to dive deeper into things like looking at our values, looking at boundaries that we may need to set, or that we don't have, or that we have and were broken, and how we responded to those. And so just remembering that all of this is used to learn more about ourselves, to come back to self, so that we can explore the deeper aspects and then show up in the world the way that we want to, shining that divine light that we each have. Lastly, I'd like to speak to an aspect called bhakti. This is the Sanskrit word that's often translated as devotion. And so bhakti yoga may be something that you're familiar with. And this is not necessarily a form of asana practice. Bhakti yoga is this loving devotion towards a personal deity. So this aspect of the self related to a god or goddess. And this doesn't have to be a Hindu god or goddess. It can be Christ consciousness. It can be a mentor or a teacher that you greatly respect. And it's not the same as idol worship. It's this idea that these people, these gods or goddesses, these mentors, these teachers, they're aspects and archetypes of ourself as well. So they can be a reflection of the qualities that we wish to share with the world, or that we're already sharing with the world. And so in bhakti yoga, this devotion, we are offering gratitude, offering loving devotion towards these aspects, these qualities that we hope to embody or are already embodying. And so your personal deity may change and shift over time. For instance, you may connect with a particular god or goddess in whatever uh, mythological school that speaks to you because you feel like you harbor similar traits. But then you may begin to create a practice around loving devotion to an aspect or aspects of a god or goddess that feel challenging for you because you would like to incorporate more of their qualities, more of these archetypes, because you feel like you're being called to do so. So, exploring this idea of bhakti, this idea of devotion, practical yet spiritual, grounded yet heavenly, knowing that we are reflections of these archetypes, that we have this goddess or god energy within us. We're not separate from that. We're reflections of each other. Each of us are reflections of others, and we're all connected. So, to weave, to expand maybe our vision of things. And lastly, I'd like to kind of just do a little recap of the year, a little short weaving it all together. And instead of going month by month, what I'm going to do is kind of touch on the particular elements. So the four elements that we've worked with. We've had the four elements in throughout the year, various animals representing different ones. And those animals that harbor the qualities of the air element remind us to zoom out, to see the larger picture while also remaining aware of the details that others may not see or may not be so obvious. So, for instance, creatures of the air, birds, insects, often can take this bird's eye view. They can zoom out and see the larger picture, but they will have great eyesight. So they're still seeing very small details that may not be obvious to other creatures. So again, this remembrance to zoom out, see the larger picture, but also keep in mind the details, both and, not either or. By our animals. So all of those animals that embodied the fire quality remind us that transformation is a required part of the process. Transformation is life. Transformation is happening all the time around us, whether we're seeing it or not. Our cells transforming, the breath moving from an inhale to exhale, converting oxygen to carbon dioxide, the seasons, the time of day, all of these transitions. It's a part of the process. And when we can begin to lean into these transitions, we begin to really understand our cycle as well as a human. Earth quality in the animals remind us to stay anchored in our true self. So continuing to come home to that divine part of us. And lastly, the water element reminds us that life ebbs and flows, to dive the depths of those places within that we may want to often overlook because we want to find the medicine there. We can find the medicine when we dive those depths. There may be lessons that we need to learn or dive the depths so that we can understand those lessons. We need to maybe seek out those qualities of the self that remain hidden, so that we can bring those to the surface, bring those to light, whether it be for healing or whether it be for showing the world a part of us that we've kept hidden, because showing it will better not just ourselves, but the world around us. And so taking those aspects of these elements, these animals with you as we close out the year. Feel free to go back and look through any of the past videos of bhavanas and see if you have a favorite this year. Was there an element or an animal that really spoke to you this year? I would love to hear more from you if anything resonated. And I am looking forward to journeying into the new year with you all. I've got some exciting things planned. We've got some workshops coming up. I've kind of stepped away from social media for the month of December. I'm not on Facebook or Instagram right now. I've got some scheduled posts going just because I do have a couple offerings that are happening this month, but otherwise, there's no doom scrolling, there's no commenting, there's no checking messages, and it has been incredibly transformational already. I'm just 7 days into it. I started on December 1st. But if you've never done a social media fast and like really stuck to it, totally recommend it. It's quite insightful in many, many ways. But events that are coming up, if you are in Savannah this Sunday, December 11th from 4:30 until 6 at New Yoga Now, Erin and myself will be hosting a Yoga Nidra experience. It's called Boundless Clarity. This is similar to a workshop, the three-part workshop that I held about 2 years ago at New Yoga Now that was virtual as well as small group in person. But we've opened it up to a larger group, and it's just one part. It's basically the first part where we'll explore the history, the theory, and the different styles of Yoga Nidra, as well as share the benefits of having Yoga Nidra as part of a practice. Erin also practices Yoga Nidra quite often and has had wonderful experiences with it. And so we decided that partnering together, sharing those benefits, how it has really created some big shifts in our life, and mostly just support, especially the last several years as we move through the shifting world, how it has supported us. And so she'll lead you through a gentle movement practice, and then I'll guide you through the deep relaxation and Yoga Nidra portion. You can sign up in the link in my bio on Instagram. You can also go to New Yoga Now's website and then the mind body schedule that you can find on their website and sign up via that link. We have a few spaces left. It's from 4:30 until 6, and we would love to have you join. Then on the 21st, it's a Wednesday evening, Sarah from the Alchemistic, and I are gathering once more for 2022 virtual winter solstice gathering hosted through Zoom. This is a 2-hour evening gathering on the winter solstice. We'll be offering a little chat. So current astrology, the meaning of Yule, any sort of goddess mythology. Sarah will be offering a collective tarot reading. We will also be doing a Yoga Nidra practice that I'll guide you through. I'll also go over some Ayurvedic rituals that we can use to help us ease through the winter months, some recipes. We've created another beautiful PDF that you'll be able to take with you after the experience. And if you can't make the actual evening of the 21st, we are offering the replay until the end of the year, so that you can bring in these qualities of Yule, the winter solstice, the returning of light. And then the PDF is yours forever to keep. So you can, of course, use these resources as you move through winter. Next year, we hope to bring it back in person. So stay tuned. Registration is open. You can find the link in my bio on Instagram once again, or through my website. So again, I hope you can make it. I hope to see you all. And if I don't see you before the new year, please have a lovely, lovely holiday season. Thank you so very much. See you soon.